Hey y'all, it's your girl Kenzie Symone and welcome back to my channel. Y'all, today we will be talking about preparing to move alone. So y'all, now at this point I have been living by myself for right at 4 months, and I actually had one of my friends, Don, reach out and ask about some tips in regards to moving alone, and I was like, oh my gosh, I definitely should let the people know, because I wish that I had something like this when I was in the process of wanting to move and live on my own. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video.
Oh my god, it's Kenzie. Kenzie. It's Kenzie Symone.
So y'all, the first thing that you have to do when it comes to living alone is come up with a plan. So I literally had a Word document on my computer and it went over a few different things. Number one, everything that I needed to complete in order to feel ready to move. So there were some courses that I wanted to take. I wanted to get my website up. I wanted to just some personal things that I wanted to get done before I move. Just for me personally, not anything really that is required. Another thing that I had on there was where I wanted to live. So before I could move, I had to figure out what state was I gonna move to, what city did I want to move to. I personally decided on Charlotte for a few different reasons. The first one being that when I was graduating from the University of Miami, I had a conversation with my dad about where I wanted to go next. And Charlotte was actually at the top of my list then. I don't really know why. I honestly had never even been to Charlotte at that point, but it just seemed like such a cool city, such a great spot. Now, when my dad passed back in November of 2020, I decided that I, number one, wanted to keep in mind that conversation that he and I had already had and started planning for. But then number two, I wanted to be away from Atlanta. I wanted to be far enough away, which is only 3.5, 4 hours max from my family, but I still wanted to be close enough where if I need to get home, I can definitely get there, especially because I love my family. I love being able to be with them. I don't have to, oh my gosh, now I have to worry about paying for a flight. I literally can just pack up my car and get back to my people. And then also because Charlotte was just such a cool city. I talked a little bit more about the reasoning as to why I chose Charlotte in my moving vlogs. If you have not already, please be sure that you check that out. But kind of the next thing definitely is to figure out where exactly you're gonna move. From there, you have to figure out your timeline. So I had actually started my plan back in 2019. Absolutely crazy, but I said back in 2019, again, I had that conversation with my dad that I wanted to move. Now in 2021 was really when I said, okay, this is the month, the day that I'm actually going to move out of here. I had on my plan September 24th. I talked to my boyfriend, I talked to my therapist, and I was like, this is the day, come hell or high water, that I will be in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I came up with that date in like April, so it was very early on, but I had a specific date in mind. Now I ended up actually moving on October 1st of 2021, but my lease actually was signed on September 24th, so I did keep true to that date. And I actually had to end up moving a little bit later because I was having some travels going on. So I couldn't move in when my lease actually started, but my lease actually was signed since September 24th, which is the timeline. That is the date that I had in mind since April, and that is the date that I stuck with. Then of course you want to be able to tour, do research. Before I moved, I actually kind of did bring y'all along for that process as well in regards to touring different apartment buildings in this city. Now again, I had not spent a lot of time in Charlotte by the time that it was time for me to move. I just said time a lot. But I kind of did a lot of research on the different pockets of the city that there was. There was Uptown, there was Dilworth, Noda, South End, or some other places in Charlotte. Plaza Midwood is another place that I looked into. Definitely just kind of figuring out and actually going and visiting and figuring out what side of town do I feel like can be home for me. And then touring in all of those different cities, really figuring out which apartment building can I see myself living in, spending every single day in for me. And from there, the biggest thing when it comes to moving is budgeting, y'all. Money is the biggest part when it comes to moving. First, you gotta figure out if you're gonna live alone. Are you gonna have somebody to split these expenses with? Because let me tell you, it's expensive. And if not, can you afford to actually move out when you want to move out? So especially when you're very first moving, it's a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. You have to keep in mind that most places, mine in particular and a lot of other places that I visited, required that you made at least 3 times whatever the rent is, which means if your rent is $1,000, they want to make sure that on a monthly basis you're bringing home at least $3,000. That's just the rent though, y'all. You also got to figure out if you have furniture like I did. Actually, most of my furniture that's in my apartment, which if you haven't already, check out my apartment tour. But most of the furniture here is actually the furniture that I had my senior year of college, and I've just kept everything in storage, to be honest. Because again, I always had a plan that I knew 2 years max, I am gonna be out of Georgia. I'm going to be living somewhere else. I just knew that I had to make a move, right? So I've actually kept all of my furniture in storage since 2019, which means then I had to consider movers. Now, thank God, one of my good friends, Kenneth, and my boyfriend, Sammy, of course, actually helped me pack everything up from the storage into the moving truck. Sammy actually drove the moving truck from Atlanta to Charlotte, and I only had to pay for movers to unload and unpack and build all of my furniture once we got here. So if you're able to save, any way that you're able to save money, definitely do, but it is expensive, so you gotta save up a lot of money. If you don't have any furniture, that's something else that you have to consider. A couch, a bed, where are you gonna eat? There's so many different things, cost that goes into moving. So y'all, ultimately when it comes to the money portion of moving out, you will need rent, security deposit, utilities, Wi-Fi, movers, and furniture. Is kind of everything that you should budget for within those first couple of months. And after you have already settled in, moved in and whatnot, then you have to figure out what is your budget gonna be like on a monthly basis outside of those first couple months, because again, moving fees, furniture, all that's kind of in that first couple months. But after that, are you going to be able to pay your bills consistently? Because y'all, it's more than just rent that you have to pay. You gotta pay utilities, you gotta pay Wi-Fi, sometimes you gotta pay trash. I do. So definitely knowing that, okay, I can budget for my rent to be maybe 1/3 of my income, but still on top of that, I still have these fixed expenses every single month that I'm having to make sure that I budget for. Hey, editing Kenzie here. I just wanted to drop in and make sure that y'all know, do not, I repeat, do not deplete your savings account to move. Don't do it. Don't do it. And know that you will be spending more your first couple of months than you will on a month-to-month basis, because again, there are a lot of upfront expenses that have to be paid when you first move in. So back to the video. So y'all, when it comes to budgeting and saving, go ahead and start now. When I was living at home, I actually had a separate savings account specifically for moving and some other things for in my future that I wanted to make sure I was saving for. And that savings account, I literally have no access to be able to take money out of it. It's at a totally separate bank. So it's very difficult for me to actually get money out, but every single month, I made sure that I put the amount that my rent was gonna be into that savings account come hell or high water. So while I was living at home, I still was kind of paying rent so that I could know that once I move out, I would still be able to pay my rent on a monthly basis like I was already kind of doing anyways at home. Groceries. Oh my God. Eating is expensive. Now y'all, for the rent, when it comes to your rent, whenever you decide on the place that you do want to move to, check this daily. Sometimes they got savings deals. I know that mine gave me 1 month free rent if I signed a 13-month lease, which ended up helping me out on a month-to-month basis. So that's something that I did. But y'all, these prices fluctuate every single day. The price that I pay right now for my apartment, I've checked back on the apartment a lot of times right around the time when I was moving, and even recently because one of my friends was considering moving too. I have never seen the price be as low as what I pay than anywhere else. Also, when it comes to rent, here is a pro tip that I found out. If you move into a new build, a new construction building, it will be the cheapest the first 2 years than it ever will be. So that's another thing. I moved into this apartment building when it was less than 2 years old, which means that I was paying the new build price. After it's been 2 years, they are able to now change the price to what it's actually worth. So if you're able to find anywhere that's a new build, number one, it's gonna be super nice because everything's gonna be brand new. And number two, you'll actually be paying for less than what the apartment is typically actually worth. Now, when it comes to your renewals, you're gonna be really upset once you get to that 2-year mark and the rent skyrockets to what it's actually worth. But while you have the chance, go ahead and move in, get some experience with living in a really nice place for a super cheap price. And then the last thing that you want to do when it comes to moving is making sure that you complete everything that's needed in order to move. So when I was moving, number one is to do the actual application, which of course you gotta pay a fee to do that, and get approved. Make sure everything is in order. Get really nice with the leasing agent to make sure that you will be approved. See what exactly they're looking for. Make sure that your bank account can handle an approval because they're gonna look into all of those things. So really just making sure that the money is right so that you will get approved. The second thing is, again, making sure that the money is right. Once you get approved, if you decide to sign your lease, then you have to typically pay 1 month's rent plus the security deposit. Sometimes the security deposit can be like $500. Sometimes it's 3 times whatever the monthly rent is. So make sure that you can afford those moving expenses and really those first couple months of living somewhere. The security deposit typically has to be done on a money order, so it's not like you can just go swipe a credit card, which I don't recommend anyways. Don't get into debt trying to move. Make sure that you have actual cash, liquid cash, in order to be able to move. Make sure that you get renter's insurance. Y'all, that is a requirement to be able to move. So again, another fee that you have to make sure that you have budgeted for. Make sure that you set up your electricity, your Wi-Fi, and any other things that must be done in order for you to be move-in ready. If you have a pet like me, make sure that your apartment gets all of your pet information so that there's no confusion when it comes to moving in. And then make sure that they have all of your vehicle information as well so that you have somewhere to park your car if you decide to have a vehicle when you move. And last thing is sign that lease, y'all. I really encourage everyone to have an opportunity to move out once the time is right. Don't do it prematurely. It's nothing at all wrong with living at home. You can save so much money. You get to spend so much time with your family. But whenever that time is right for you, whether it's moving out on your own, moving in with roommates, or once you're married, moving in with your spouse, definitely make sure that you experience, living outside of your parents' home at some point in your life. So y'all, that is everything for this video. That's everything that I wish I had known and kind of that I found out when it came to moving. Biggest thing, it's expensive. Make sure you got your coins right. And yeah, that is basically all. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure that you give it a huge thumbs up and leave a comment down below letting me know if you currently live on your own or if you are currently looking to move out on your own. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel because y'all, it's free and it helps me out a lot. And you can turn on the post notification bell too. That way you're notified every single time that I post a video. And as always, I'll see y'all next time on It's Kenzie Symone. Bye!